Yeah, they were all very excited.
The planes falling off the street like it's
From my
same tower? First neighborhood, warehouse. Next was, guy next to us, it's around, didn't paint the garage door. The guy behind us wasn't cutting it once like 3 feet. I mean, you know, it's like only you walk by your house. You see it. It's like one day I had an idea, it's like, I'm gonna ask permission. Next door, you mind if I paint, you mind if I paint your garage door? You know, I know it's not you, it's the guy wasn't like, yeah, okay. Paint the door, I go behind me. There's like a kid that was like, you're going to do instead of me, done. And then I have next to the neighbors, they're like, I was supposed to flex up. It's like, hey, Terry, I can see what I'm doing. It's like, you know what, it worked. It got my house.
Yeah. Mr. Hertel, we turn the recording on.
Yes.
Yeah. I like it. It wasn't working this morning either.
So clear. Now, when you get ESPN, I'll be really good.
I do have a Netflix account.
There you go. Sweet.
What's the next thing we have to ask for?
I used to represent Hal for like 1 year, the first year. I took over the overage office. We had gone back for CME one back. And Ernie Peters, who now works for us, used to do the account. In Hal Township, you'd have breaks in between the meetings. They go in the back room, they have the TV on, they're watching the Yankees games.
I would say, yes. I don't know, we haven't been
Something's been fired since the work because if people.
Well, it's an outside service.
Right, but they, the county never fixed it, but if people need problems, it's pretty good. For anybody, it's up to us.
Like I said,
I still feel like those questions, you know?
if Pat said next week, maybe we need to ask. Ali had sent a request. Rabbi recently wants to add properties by consolidation and put in additional apartment. He's not adding any one building. And the question was whether we can do it administratively, and then he comes back as a correspondence. The guy's doing.
Okay, but here, there,
Voluntarily.
here, I was losing what I was arguing about.
We're trying to make it as least able as we can. Still be He's not having.
Before I was losing.
I said it's the same thing. He's voluntarily. And requesting that.
Okay, the road is. Yeah, voted. He's cool.
Yeah. Okay.
call the meeting to order. Let's rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm sorry. Al, could you please read the solicitation of the law?
The time, date, and location of this meeting was published in the Asbury Park Press and posted on the bulletin board in the office of the Township of Lakewood at least 48 hours in advance. The public has the right to attend this meeting, and reasonable comprehensive minutes of this meeting will be available for public inspection. This meeting meets the criteria of the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Fuentes. Mr. Garfield.
Here.
Mr. Stern.
Here.
Mr. Sable. Mr. Flansbrough.
Here.
Mr. Herzog.
Here.
Mr. Brenner. Mr. Isaacson. Mr. Meyer.
Here.
Mr. Raisik.
Ali, Mr. Garfield was sworn in last time?
Yes.
Yeah, because he wasn't in the... Okay, swearing in professionals.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Okay, nominalization resolutions.
We have three. It looks like everyone except for Mr. Garfield can vote on these. I don't think you were here when we approved these.
Okay.
SD 2282, which is an extension of a major subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
SD 2342, extension of a minor subdivision.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor? Aye.
And SP 2135, this one came from Mr. Jackson's office. This is a resolution of abandonment for a previous site plan approval that had gone to litigation.
Mr. Court, they were abandoning the approval and waive the resolution that says that, coming by the court order. Okay, so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. What does it mean when they abandon? Whatever was original goes back to it.
The approval goes out the window.
And whatever was the original, that's what it says.
Maybe, maybe not, but it depends if that was abandoned too, it's not that easy to say.
I don't know what we're turning it back into when we abandon it.
Well, it hasn't been constructed, so the site will essentially just stay as it is. They don't have the right to build before
And they have to come back to one of the boards.
if they want to build something.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public hearing, is there any change to the public hearing?
Yes, the first item, SB 2314 for TMB 70 LLC. The attorney for this applicant reached out to me earlier today. They are meeting with some neighbors who reached out to them today as well. They need some more time to get that done. They're requesting the June 18th public hearing. I don't have no problem.
Do they need a time extension?
No, they're good through July.
Which one?
Some of them in July, don't rush the July.
Okay, that's it? The rest is on?
That's the only change, yes.
Okay, so on to number 2.
SD 2390 for Joseph Lipschitz, this is a minor subdivision of 2 lots for 1 on Lexington Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson, can you make the announcement on number 1 being carried to June 18th?
Members of the public, be advised, number one on the calendar, SB 2314 TMD 70 LLC. Office 5270 has been carried and will be heard on June 18th, 2019, 6 o'clock, this meeting hall. There will be no further notices.
Thank you.
Terry, when you're ready to go through the report.
Yes, regarding the Lipschitz application, Chairman, as per our May 14th review, the applicant is seeking relief, specifically with regard to building coverage, and we know that there is a pre-existing non-conformity with respect to
That's it?
That's it.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Maureen Weinstein on behalf of the applicant, Joseph Lipschitz.
We're one short, we're one plan short for this application.
Good. So this is an interesting application. This application is actually for a zero lot line subdivision approval to create 2 individual lots for a duplex that has already been constructed. So just so all the board members understand, the duplex is up. It exists, it's complete. No new construction is proposed as a result of this application. All the applicant is really asking for is to draw the lot line to create 2 separate lots for each of these side-by-side units so that they can be sold separately. This got built, and really this should have been able to be done administratively. The issue is that it requires a lot coverage variance. And,
You gave them lot coverage variance originally?
no, I don't know, maybe Ally knows how that happened. Ally, how did this get built if it needed a lot coverage variance?
It was signed off by the zoning officer and went through his plot plan, so
I think it was a
I think
mistake.
it was an oversight. And
I think it was a mistake.
When they submitted for their subdivision approval, the Eagle Eye Township engineer noticed that it was not administrative because a variance was required.
Right. Surprising enough, but in a nutshell, the duplex is up. The lot is undersized. It is 6,058 square feet where 10,000 square feet would be required. So there are two variances, one for lot coverage, which is an existing use, which is an existing condition, and the other one is for the lot coverage of 34.4% and 34.8%, where 30% is permitted. Again, we're seeking this relief, but the duplex is up.
You have to shrink the house.
And somehow the township signed off on this, they approved the plans, and really the only thing we're asking for is that you allow us to draw that line and to get the zero lot line subdivision, which normally would be given administratively, except that there were these mistakes made.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members?
I'm totally confused. How did this happen?
I asked you, I don't know what happened.
How do you get the 6,000 square foot lot to 10,000 square foot lot?
Well, I don't think that was the mistake. The mistake was only on the lot coverage. I think there was an existing two-family structure on that lot beforehand. So it got approved to put up a two-family unit on it, even though the lot was undersized. So that got signed off on. The lot coverage, I think they missed. And then if the lot coverage issue got caught when the applicant came in and said, I need to do an administrative zero lot line subdivision, and they looked at it and said, well, lot coverage is exceeded, you need to go in front of the planning board now to get the subdivision.
So, start from the beginning. Had this been done correctly, and it wasn't a mistake, what would have happened?
They would have submitted a plot plan to the building department. The zoning officer would have said, you do not meet the zone requirements, you need a variance for lot coverage.
They would have to come
And
from
they
our
would have
board.
gone to the
Zoning board, then it would have gone to the zoning board. Then it would have gone to the zoning board because it wouldn't have met the conditions and it's a spot lot, and it would have ended up going to the zoning board. The reason we are at this board now is because at this point, we're only asking for minor subdivision. The structure's up. It's up, that's not the question. The question is that the applicant's saying, I need you to draw a lot line and give me two separate lots instead of one, which is a subdivision.
Excuse me, wouldn't it be easier if you could show the board the plan and point to it and say what the survey looks like and where the houses are and where the mistake? Wouldn't that be a lot? Wouldn't that be a lot
Good, it's
more?
so simple that I don't have an engineer on this, that's the
Well,
Basically, Mr. Jackson, everything's built already.
I know, but it's just, I think it's.
I mean,
What-
John, honestly, it is very simple. It's
Well,
built,
hold on a
and we're
second.
only asking you to give us.
What
the
relief are you asking for?
We're asking for two variances. We're asking for relief for this duplex, which was already built on an undersized lot. Realistically, even if you deny the subdivision, this house isn't getting torn down, so nothing is changing.
Well, I don't know
Why
about
do you
that.
make it like this is an advantage that it's already built, like it's not a problem? You know, you think it's already built, so therefore it's good. To me, it's the opposite.
How is a duplex that's meant for two homeowners built on one single lot to begin with?
I can answer that.
Don't you need a subdivision to have two pieces of what it is to begin with?
Yes.
Two owners, yes.
Yeah,
So
so
the duplex is permitted on appropriate lots. This lot happens to be undersized, but the ordinance provides that for undersized lots, you can construct a single-family house or a duplex if it's an existing undersized lot. So they didn't need a variance to build a duplex. As it stands, and as the way it used to be done before we started doing these zero lot lines, these duplexes were built on one mother lot, and the owners had shared condo agreements that made the selling process complicated. So in 2007, maybe 2009, the town passed an ordinance saying that you can put a lot line down the middle of the duplex so that you can sell them.
The zero lot
simple.
line.
That's the zero lot line fee simple ordinance. In this case, they built the duplex first, which sometimes happens. They came in afterwards, probably figuring that it wouldn't be an issue to split it, but because the plan came in with the request for the lot line, and the plan had more information on it, the township engineer was able to see that you actually constructed at a coverage variance, and because of that, you can't administratively just add that lot line.
let me ask you this, let me ask you a quick question. because it's a pre-existing undersized lot,
Mhm.
right? Can you submit a plot plan to the zoning office to build a duplex, assuming there's just gonna be one owner?
Yes.
You can, okay.
But
So-
not-
so
you
somebody
can't
did
go over
that,
the building
now it's coming
permit.
back and saying, instead of giving me the variance to begin with, give me the variance after it's already built.
No, they're coming in because they need a variance that the zoning officer missed.
Well, but-
No, because the duplex.
That they missed too.
Be-
Technically, if we don't subdivide, they keep their duplex.
Well,
But
no,
you
no.
can-
Well, no,
No,
not
no,
technically.
not
They don't
technically.
get approved, anyone can force them to chop off however much of the building they need to chop off to comply with.
That's not true. That's not true, because we have a CO, so that's
Hold on a
not
second,
true.
Marion, wait a second. It is
Yes,
true.
we have a CO. It's not, we have a CO.
Will you let-
1 second.
Excuse me, let me tell,
One
let's,
at a time, please.
Mr. Chair, through the chairman. The rules are that if you build and it's a mistake, chances are, you can get what they call estoppel against the government if it's inspected and built, but generally not if you were the one that made the mistake. So you still have to prove your case, you still have to get the variance for the undersized building, CO or no CO. In theory, somebody could go and they could take it down, or, the zoning officer could write a summons, they might never enforce it, they might not. But just because it's built and just because there's a CO, doesn't mean that it's legit. So what my point to Marion was, you gotta show all this in your case. You have to show the reasons for the variance, you have to lay it out, you have to give a cogent explanation like Ally just did as to how we got here, and you have to say why the lot can withstand being a couple percentage points over on coverage, and you have to grant a C1 variance. That's how it's all supposed to go. And I can-
We're gonna swear in, Brian.
It's fine, if you swear from testimony you give before this board, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, Brian Flannery, Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer, professional planner. Just to expedite things, I'm sitting here listening. There's a provision in the ordinance in section 8 that says on an existing undersized lot, you're allowed to have 35% impervious coverage. So if Fran did not make a mistake when she approved this, that's allowed.
Wait a second, impervious, the same as
No,
building coverage?
building coverage.
You said impervious, okay.
Building coverage, so when
So is
Fran
Ally wrong
signed
when
it-
she said she's over?
No, because now that it's no longer a vacant lot, it's not entitled to that provision of the ordinance. So it's a silly situation that we're in, and the easy answer is it's a C2 variance, the benefits outweigh the detriments. The benefits are you don't have to knock down the building, it's already there. The detriments, in my opinion, are nothing. It was built in accordance with the ordinance, it was signed off by Fran, it's there. He should have, when he did it, done it all at one point, because at that point, he could have come into the board and he could have said, we're gonna build a duplex. It's an existing, undersized lot, section 18 it's the non-conforming use section, number E, I think of that, which says, on the, undersized non-conforming lots, you're allowed to have 35%. And that was put in there because on smaller lots, it makes sense to have 35%.
So what's the percentage that this building's over? Where is it close to? What are the surrounding conditions? Why is being over in this circumstance okay?
Well, it's in the B2 zone, and it was a structure that was allowed to be constructed. So now it's an existing, conforming structure. The only thing that's being done by the granting of this is allowing it to have two separate owners, rather than one owner. Two separate owners are better, which is why the governing body put in the provision in the ordinance to allow for the fee simple lot line. The pride of ownership, it's something that when the township did that back in like 2007, they said this was a good idea, and they did. It's the same good idea. Nobody's going to notice. Nobody's going to tell the difference between 34% and 30%. So my professional testimony is it's a C2 variance. The benefits outweigh the detriments, and the board should grant the variance.
Through the chair, maybe I'm just not understanding the ordinance correctly, but if you believe it as is, the only difference is that you can't have two lots and you can't sell each unit individually, right? But I mean, you said you had a CO already, so somebody owns the buildings, right? So you can keep one owner, or you can do this condo type
We
stuff.
can condo.
My point is that it's
Unless they have two COs.
So it would be one CO for the whole building.
I understand,
It's one, two,
and I don't think
one.
it was arguing that fee simple ownership is better than just having condo ownership of one building. My point is that, I think, and also, I think Bruce said the same thing too, it's like, it's not that simple, because then you would have had to come to the board then before you built it in order to get the 2 lots. Now it's like skirting around.
So he could have come to the board as a conforming application, because the only reason it's limited to 30 now is because he built the building that he was allowed to build.
I'm sorry, I just can't follow that logic. That's lost.
Well, it is.
I'm not.
It's not simple, it's just coming before us to say, just do this because it's operating, that's the whole point.
Well, that's where he is, because he didn't follow the right procedure. But if he had come to you in the beginning and said, no, if you would have come to the planning board for a subdivision application, you would have said, I have the right to build this, because now it's still a single lot. You would have said 35%. Terry may have said you needed a variance, and I would have said it makes sense, the variance. And the board probably would have granted it, and it would have been built. But this isn't something he did intentionally. It's something
He did intentionally, but, just moving forward, it's like.
And moving forward, everybody in this room, I think, understands that that's not the way it should be done.
The thing, Marion, and I apologize, but just why I want to put the brakes on this is your approach to this was, well, the zoning officer made a mistake. And I'm like, there's 2 people that made a mistake here. The person that built it also made a mistake. So it's not all on the zoning officer. It's also on the homeowner. And I'm not saying that should preclude them from getting a variance. This isn't a board that issues out punishment or that kind of thing. But I'm saying you can't just say, well, the zoning officer made a mistake and prove my application. I think you have to show, like, if the board abides by, accepts Brian's testimony, I think you make the case. But I don't think you just say, well, no one's going to make them take it down. It's legit. We got the CO and everything's okay. There are a lot of cases where people have lower roofs. I actually represented someone in Deal. They built the roof too high. They made them take it down 2 feet. So it does happen, and I can show you numerous cases where buildings have had to get cut back to the proper size. So that's not exactly what the law is.
As much as I'm concerned that I don't want to set a precedent, like this is the new single hall that really is only used for Shabbos, that never needs any parking. I don't want this to be a new tactic. I believe the applicant made a mistake in good faith, but I don't want this to be.
Totally understood. The applicant is here, and I can certainly have him testify that he made a mistake in good faith. This was really a mistake. And yes, I do agree with John. The applicant also made a mistake. That's true. There were 2 parties that made a mistake. It was the applicant as well as the zoning officer, and that's how it got through.
I would personally love to hear what exactly happened.
Okay. Sure.
Please raise your right hand. Do affirm the testimony you give before the board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Please state what your name.
My name is Joseph Lipschitz, L-I-S-E-H, L-I-P-S-C-H-I-P-Z.
And please speak into my computer right now.
Yes, I had an architect design the house. Originally, my intention wasn't at all to divide it into 2, and it was just, as there was a duplex there before, an older duplex, I designed a new duplex, the architect designed it. I understand that in most of the areas in that location that has RM and R75, the maximum building coverage is 35%, so he must have thought that, we actually tried to stay within the 35%, but nobody thought that B2 has different coverage, even though for commercial, B2 actually allows a lot more coverage, so it didn't occur to anyone, I guess, from my end, that we have an issue with, as long as we stayed under the 35%. As after we built the house, people have approached me and asked if they wanted to buy an individual actually approached that he wanted to buy the unit. Actually, we're in contract, and I was telling my lawyer we only went to the subdivision because they were in contract to buy. They backed away last week, and she asked me, do I want to back away from the contract, from the board meeting? I said, we're here already, we may as well go. But the original intent wasn't to try to play some kind of game and do this. It was simply, in good faith, build a house which was meant to be sold as one, and we were told we had negotiated, we spoke to the attorney, we were told that it could be subdivided. We submitted a subdivision administratively, which the attorney for the town said that we need to come before the board.
Okay, thank you. Terry, B2 is allowed the duplex, right?
That's correct.
And on what guidelines? Like an R75?
Typically R75 type guidelines.
So they would need 10,000 square feet technically?
Typically, yes. Now, to add one thing, just as part of the record, I'm not justifying the requirement on building coverage. Looking at the application, other than the undersized lot and other than building coverage, it is fully conforming with respect to the building setbacks.
Okay, thank you.
Typically at zoning board, we see these a lot in form of plot plan, and they're almost always setback related.
Okay.
That's not the case here.
Okay, thank you.
So the only issue is really the coverage ratio?
Yeah.
So it's 34 versus 30?
Correct.
That's the only real issue?
That's the only issue other than the undersized lot itself, as Brian indicated, is permitted.
And two families are gonna live there. The only difference is they could get two separate mortgages on it.
And they could do a condo by right?
They could do a condo by right.
So good.
Okay, let me just open the public.
Brian, the zoning table says 30% versus 34.4 and 34.8. Is the zoning table wrong?
No, that's correct.
I thought you said 35.
35% is for a vacant lot. I heard in their testimony that there was a building there, so possibly it wasn't vacant. But if it already had 34% coverage, then you're allowed to keep that coverage, so.
Tell us, the ordinance allows you to build a bigger building when you start with a vacant lot than if you have a building.
Yes, vacant undersized lot. But if you have a building there already, you're allowed to keep whatever.
The footprint of that.
Yes, yes, so I don't know the details of it. I only got up.
Mr. Lynch has actually testified himself, there was a two-family structure on this lot previously, which he knocked down.
So you grandfathered in for a two-family house? Okay. I will open to the public. Anybody from the public like to be heard on this application, please come forward. Seeing no one, we'll close it to the public. I would ask for a motion on this application. Mr. Stern moves. Over, I'm sorry, has a question?
This application, should we put a notation so it doesn't set a precedent on other lots that people can refer to? Maybe this situation only.
Every case stands on its own merit. People can talk to prior approvals, but that does not, every case is unique. And
I mean, I think we voiced our opinion on record. We're not happy with it. I think that stands for. Okay, so Mr. Stern made a motion, and Mr. Flansbaum seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Garfield.
No.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
Mr. Flansbrough.
Yes.
Mr. Herzl.
Yes.
Mr. Meyer.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Motion
you.
approved.
if someone else can figure out the loophole, execute it, and then exploit it, I'll be amazed.
Number two.
SB 2327AA made by Frank Lester, change of use to convert an existing house to a school located at 53 New York.
Okay, Terry, are you ready to go through the report, please?
Okay, as indicated in our May first review, we have several variances noted, however, they all appear to be existing conditions. I'll try and confirm that shortly. That includes minimum front yard setback, side yard setback, perimeter buffer, and relief for parking within the buffer. That being said, design waivers are necessary, including the shade tree and utility easements, shade tree lighting, and landscaping.
Okay, Terry, you finished? Thank you. Thank you. Ron.
Swear firm testimony given to us before we did treat the policy from us.
I do. Brian Flannery Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer, professional planner. Yes, as Terry indicated, this is a change of use site plan. It's a change of use to from a residence to a school. It's going to be a preschool with some classes for remedial classes for the older school age children in the first grade kind of a criteria.
So the total amount of classrooms?
Excuse me?
It's going to be a full school?
No, it's a combination of preschool and remedial school classes for the younger children. So there are no buses coming to this. They anticipate in the, like 35 to 40 students that would be there, and they would all be dropped off. The variance relief that we're requesting are all for existing conditions for the existing structure that's there. I have two exhibits. A1 is the plan that shows basically the existing features. There's already the 6 parking spaces, which is 1 for each classroom, 1 for the office. A2 is the...
Brian, going on the parking spaces, I don't like the stackable parking. Why can't we come in, let's say, for Central and come out of Freeman and put the parking?
Well, the parking would be for the teachers only, so it's the parking works now as the residents changing something on Central Avenue with getting county approvals. I don't think it's going to make the situation any better.
Imagine if you're number 6 or 3 or 6 and you have to wait for 1 through 5.
Well, and it's certainly with only 6 of the teachers there, and they don't anticipate having 6 there at a time. The applicant feels that this is something that they may only have 3 or 4 there at a time, and they could certainly rotate them the same as you do when you have a house and your kids come in and your wife comes in, and they could make it work, as opposed to doing something different that you need county approval and
So you need county approval, you come in Central Drive,
well, you can't come in at Central. It's too big of a grade change, and the structures.
Where's the pickup and drop off?
You know, where are the kids going? Where are the kids going?
The parents would stop on Freeman, and there's no other houses on Freeman, so the parents would stop. It's like a home daycare. I know when I lived in Lakewood.
driveway going into the building.
They're walking across the grass.
Right, the parents would stop and they would walk the kid in. It's the same as they do. They could do a daycare in this basement if there was somebody living in the house.
That'd be 6, not 40. Yeah, 6, but
I don't know how many there were in your neighborhood. In my neighborhood, there were more than 6.
But the law is actually 6.
Well, there's different laws relating to different aspects of family care and child care. So,
So DIFAS says you can have 6 in a house. This is 40.
Brian, you didn't answer what I asked you earlier. The elevation from Central Avenue, I mean, all the teachers will be coming in from Central Avenue and parking in that driveway, that's 6 cars?
Yes.
So the elevation works over there, right?
Well, that works because that's at one elevation.
And Freeman is much lower.
Freeman is going downhill. It goes downhill to South Lake Drive. There's a substantial drop.
And so you can't make a turnaround coming out of Central to come out of Freeman?
We could,
It's a one-way. South Lake is one-way over there.
No.
Central,
the one-way starts at the next one.
Right. And Freeman is a two-way.
At Freeman it's two-way, and South Lake is two-way at this point. It's the next, it's actually at Freeman and it changes. From Bradhurst to Freeman,
Right.
it's one way.
it's from Freeman on that, from
Freeman
Central until Freeman. When you're coming around, that is a one-way.
From, on South Lake,
Right. From
from
South Lake
Freeman,
until,
from
South Lake
Freeman
until
east
Freeman.
is one way. There's do not enter signs
Right.
at Freeman at that point.
Right.
So South Lake at the bottom is two-way in front of this.
Oh, Freeman's one way?
No.
Oh.
South Lake, there's a section of South Lake from where, if you were coming from Route 9, you get on,
Down to the skating pond.
Yes, the skating pond. It's one way at the skating pond.
Brian, I have a problem, and I think the other one has a problem. 6 cars backing out on Central Avenue.
On Central Avenue.
I don't know if that will be a turnaround.
We'll make a turn.
Central, it's so narrow.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
No, I mean, somebody backing on, because if they're
Yes.
coming nose in, that means when they leave, they're backing onto Central.
But that's what they've done this far, but.
That's a nightmare, somebody's gonna die. I'm sorry, it's terrible.
We'd like to amend the application to show a turnaround.
Why can't you come in on Central and go out at Freeman? Because then you have your opening, road opening on Central.
That's what we're going to do.
If you have your road opening, ready,
Yes.
you're not going to
Yes.
the county on that.
Yes.
Terry, do you agree with that?
These
And he's saying that will avoid the need to back out on the busy road. It's going to be improved.
You don't agree with that?
No, I said anything to avoid backing out is improved. Yeah, this is.
The applicant will revise the plan to show 6 parking spaces that are not stacked, that enter from the existing curb cut on Central and exit onto Freedom.
People are told that the applicants or there's opposition?
I'm assuming that's the neighbors.
Then there's opposition on this?
Substantial.
We'll have to hear. Okay. Any other variances?
Well, the variances that are listed
Are
are
existing, right?
for the existing building.
Well, you're just not doing it with the building.
That is correct.
Or does the topography even allow what the chairman is suggesting? I mean,
Yes.
in the area, there's a lot of, so you got a 6-foot drop.
We got a 6-foot drop.
You make a driveway on a 6-foot drop?
Yes.
And imagine if there's ice on it, you're gonna be skating.
Well, there are standards on what makes sense. I would say for a driveway, you wouldn't want more than 8%, and you could make an 8%, a maximum of 8%.
Decline.
Yes.
They're there now.
No. So just running through the variances
So
quick.
before you go through the variances, what is the maximum amount of kids going into the school? There's no for parking features.
We showed 5 classrooms on the plan.
So that's the max?
10 per classroom, 50 kids. We certainly wouldn't expect that initially, but I would assume.
It's gonna be a nightmare if we make that turnaround. Let's just figure out where the parents are gonna, they're gonna all stop on Freeman, they can't come out on Central.
Nobody's coming out of state.
And Brian, these are special needs kids.
No,
Oh.
no, it's preschool and the first grade students, it would be for remedial work. Reading help.
And this is not their full-time school? Or-
That is correct. It's not their full-time school.
This is after school? What are the hours? What are we talking about?
Yeah, you have to be affirmed.
Sir, please step up to the microphone, raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony will be before this board with the truth and whole truth and nothing?
Yeah.
With state, spell your name.
Brian Lesser, E-F-R-A-I-N, L-E-S-S-E-R.
And your position with the application?
No, I'm the applicant.
This is your school?
Yeah.
Okay, so please describe the school, please.
this school, it's not existing, it's a school which we're planning to anticipate opening. We anticipate having preschool, regular, not necessarily special needs children, all types of children. And we anticipate having remedial small classes for preschool age children and older children.
They're in and out, like.
They'll be in and out. Some are being pulled out of their school, out of their, typical schools, and they're coming and getting remedial, whether it's social remedial or different types of remedial intervention and lessons.
What's the maximum amount of teachers you think will have those?
Teachers? 5.
What about other staff?
I'll say 5 total staff.
And people will be coming and going the whole day? That's what you anticipate?
Well, the bulk of the children are coming there. The bulk of the children, we should have somewhere between not more than 40 full-time, meaning, for the full day preschool age children. I mean, what we're anticipating in the short term is 20 to 25. I don't think I'm just talking about the maximum. What we think the maximum will be not more than 40.
We're approving it, we have to know what the maximum amount of kids that you can.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. That's why I say 40. I'm comfortable with 40.
If you go 40, you have to come back to a board or buy something else. You can't.
Well, the hours are typical preschool hour, 9:15 until 3. But there will be some after school, 4 or 5.
So, can I make a suggestion for future applications when it comes? There should be like a written statement somewhere in the application indicating exactly what the applicant's proposing. I mean, this is nonsense. There's got to be some, maybe 40, maybe 30, maybe this, this is, how are we supposed to know what's going on? What are
We
the
have a
hours?
section in every review which has the same questions.
It should
Because we don't work.
that, let them do it or not.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Well, the chairman stepped away just for a second, let the record reflect that Lady Isaacson and Moshe Raisik have arrived, both missed the beginning of this application, so they can't vote on this application, and they can certainly participate in the discussion.
I mean, I'm sorry, but there's just so many questions of what are the hours, what type of programs you offer, and how the students, there's so many questions, and there's some answers, some vague answers. It's like, there should be some written statement, together with the application, exactly what we're doing here.
Sure, we have a question.
Yeah, many of the schools, I live by 4th Street, many of the schools, I think now, have gone up. Before they were finished, they had trailers. Now, do you anticipate more than 40, and should you plan for more than 40? Do you anticipate?
No, I don't. No, I don't. 40 is the maximum. 40 is the top end. That's what we
16 schools, that's it. And the trailers before they finish. You just want to see if you can stop.
We're not asking for trailers. There's no room for trailers.
No, I'm just saying, are you anticipating?
No. No, not at all.
Mr. Herzl, if I may, in response to the comment by Mr. Cornerstone, what the board could do, and we have a lot of these applications, but they're just not, clear enough for the board, I'll put it that way. Make them come back, say, you're not satisfied with the information you have, and adjourn it, and adjourn it when there's nothing on the calendar, and have them come back with a better presentation, with the answers to the questions that you have, where they can lay it out, and they can have exhibits.
Hear from the neighbors what they're opposed to. They should know anything to work out.
But, it's a fairly standard thing to know the number of students, the number of faculty, what the hours of operation are, We have circulation buses.
Mr. Connery, I want to open it up to, let's put our record, what their opposition is. Anybody from the neighbors, anybody would like to speak, please come forward. You have to be affirmed. Please state your name and your address, please.
Samuel Halberg, 55 South Lake Drive. And
Okay, you're on behalf of yourself. You have the look of an attorney when you came up with that. Wow. I apologize for saying that. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm the testimony? Please raise your right hand. Will the testimony you will give before this board be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it is, and fortunately or otherwise, I am admitted to practice.
There we go. See, I can see it from a mile away.
I don't have a picture to show you, but I'd like to draw a picture in your mind. South Lake Drive comes off Central and 9. It's a very busy intersection. It was made into a one-way street because people walk there. People walk there, people park their cars, they go fishing, people use the lake facilities. This is a recreational area. It's not a wide street. There's parking on both sides of the one-way, and there's room enough for a large car to fit in between without a lot of space. It ends at Freeman. The proposed building, we're talking about 40 children, 40 cars, and we're just guessing another staff, 6 staff, and they're going to change perhaps, and have another 10 people coming through. They're going to go through either South Lake Drive, and the board proposed a drive-through coming out of Freeman, which means they're going to, first of all, Freeman is a narrow street. There's parking on both sides. There's room for 1.5 cars in the middle. How in the world they're going to turn to go up to Central unless they're driving motorcycles? I don't see it. That's number one. Number two,
You know how wide it is, the street over there, Freeman?
I drive down there
Yeah.
all the time.
It's a very narrow street. Terry, you would know?
We don't have the information.
You don't have information?
on part of the application.
It's a narrow street. There are cars parked on both sides. It's a hill. You come to Central and you can wait 20 minutes to get a spot to get
Is there a
through.
light by the central of Freeman?
No. No, you gotta drive down a couple of blocks and nobody does
How
that.
to make a turn onto Central.
It's very difficult.
So the only way is to come down Freeman to South Lake, go down to Sunset, and you have a light?
And wait by the light there.
And then you have a light.
That's right.
Now, how far is Sunset from Freeman?
2 or 3 blocks?
2 or 3 blocks. So that's the route that everybody could go.
That's correct. But there is no room on South Lake Drive. There is no room on Freeman. There is no place on Central to have 40 cars coming in.
That's why we wanted the turnaround, because Central is dangerous.
But the turnaround is still going to, you have to get there. You're talking a turnaround for 6 cars. What about the other 40 cars? Are they going to pull up and turn around somewhere and go back again to South Lake? No. They're going to end up Central. It's going to be a parking lot. From beginning of South Lake till Freeman is going to be a parking lot every day for up to 1 hour till this gets sorted out. And then when they leave, a parking lot. And then the accident factor. I really, these are children. They have to be taken into school. What do you do when you take kids into school? You park your car. Take the child in. That's the right way to do it. What about the other 39 cars? They're waiting their turn to do the same thing. You're talking hours and hours of delay and traffic that doesn't belong in an area on the lake. There are plenty of commercial areas in this town. And thank God the schools have taken to them. And they have parking, and they have turnarounds, and they have a place to go and bring your child in safely. That's not going to happen here. Not at all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public would like to be heard, please come forward. Okay, please state your name for the record. You have to be affirmed by the attorney.
Israel Rubin. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you give before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, what's your address?
I live at 110 Central, right across the street, 1 over.
Okay.
And the point I
Please proceed.
Sorry?
Please proceed.
Right, but the point I want to make is that we on Central, in that area, we are already under a lot of stress in the neighborhood.
we're dealing with tremendous traffic as it is. We have, I mean, anyone who's driven anywhere in that area, you know that there's, brutal waiting, online, but that's people coming from other areas, they see it, when they have to unfortunately go there. But those of us who live here, it's a daily thing, it's a constant issue. And I feel like anything that's adding to the issues that we face, I think is really imposing on people who are already being imposed on a lot. And it's not like we're like some guys living in some private gated community and complaining about a little thing. We're people who are dealing with a lot of this type of these traffic and issues on a regular basis, and this is just adding to it. And even leaving aside the details of how many cars come and go, just turning a house into a business in the middle of a residential neighborhood, that adds to the difficulties that the neighborhood has, and the other, like I said, the traffic cause issues that we have. And I think that's adding a lot. That's something that's imposing on people. Like I say, we're already being imposed on already to a large extent. And I know that everyone in the neighborhood who I've spoken to about it feels the same way. That people are very upset, and some people just, some people actually did come, and some people didn't come. They feel that some people maybe they couldn't, but some people just feel that the way it works is that the developers get whatever they want anyway, and it doesn't make a difference. Why bother showing up? Because the little people, nothing's going to be done for them, and I hope that that's not the case.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, I have a question for you. Yeah, you can come forward. Technically, there's no variances on this. It was the way they're proposing it. They don't need more parking. Only variance, which is an existing house. Can it, there's no other variance, can it be denied? Or they have to come back and show a turnaround that works. I understand.
I think that unless the board has specific things that you want clarified or added to the plan that are part of the design criteria or for safety, that aren't just something you're making up, you're constrained to approve a conforming application.
Okay.
This is a conforming application.
Well, that's what Mr. Herzl asked me, if it's a conforming
There's
application.
an existing variance on the house. There's no variance on parking and all the setback
I
variance.
believe there's a variance for the parking within the perimeter, within the buffer.
And if there's a variance for the existing house, that doesn't mean you have to turn it into a school. You have to re-grant that variance.
Okay.
So we have discretion.
Yes, yes. The question was, though, if you have a fully conforming application.
Okay.
But if it's not a fully conforming.
Well, they're all existing, right? Okay. Yes, Dave, I'm sorry.
It was mentioned that some of these classes and some of the students will be staggered. They're going at different times. They don't have 40 cars. They have 80 cars. I'd like to see some type of traffic study.
I think they'll have to come back and present exactly the maximum amount of cars, maximum amount of students before. Okay. I just want to hear from the neighbors and have it on the record before. Okay, I'm sorry.
If that's allowed, I live at 107 Freeman. It's diagonal across the street from the application.
Just spell your name and you have to be affirmed.
Do you affirm the testimony that you give before this board with the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Please spell your last name.
Auerbach.
Okay, please proceed.
There's one or two points that were not made, is that because of the crush of traffic on Central, the people have begun to use the side streets as raceways in order to cut ahead of the traffic. And that means that Carinetta, which commonly does not even have sufficient room for two cars to pass at the same time, will now be subject to older people who are late and trying to race down there. Additionally, the lake is one of the few bucolic, really picturesque parts of town that are left. And this will take South Lake Drive, where you have people walking all times of the day and night, and turn that into a raceway also as people try to avoid the backups on Central. Mr. Garfield's point, by the way, was well made, that the additional people who will be coming in for additional services will be coming and going at all times of the day. So it's not just segregated to specific times of the day. There will be additional traffic. The staff will not necessarily subject themselves to being stacked into those 6 places. The point was made that the grade of the turnaround, which will not, by the way, accommodate the people coming in, will be too steep. People will have to stop and park in order to get their children into the house. It's not just 40 cars filing through. It's talking about 40 people parking on Freeman, which presently has two-side parking, and this is something that you're trying to put 5 pounds in a mug into a 3-pound bag. It doesn't work. The schools in this town give the color of what the town is, and the planning board has quite correctly moved those to the periphery and away from major population centers where they can be so discomforting to everybody else or to something. Sorry. And I think that that's in recognition of the fact that a residential neighborhood that was already burdened and stressed with the traffic will just be decimated by another move like this.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned that the land has a price mark. They make any provision on the upland and there's water coming down from the land and they perform for heavy lumber.
Mr. Chair, I don't understand, what would the turnaround do? We're talking somebody coming from Route 9.
Go down Central, turn into the property, and come out Freeman.
Go down Central from Route 9, and then take a right, and then go down Freeman down to South Lake.
And come around by Sunset.
Through the chair, I'm looking at an application that requires 4 variances. Yes, there's a pre-existing condition because there's a home there already. And now they're seeking to change the use into this daycare, which we're not sure exactly how the daycare functions. But to me, it's a matter of maybe this is just not the right site. I'm sorry to say, I know you're trying to be a nice guy. Maybe it's just not the right
Mr.
site.
Chairman, the board has raised some legitimate concerns about how this is going to function. The applicant would like to address them, revise the plans, come back and address them. It is a permitted use, so, and that area, as well as a lot of other areas, there's a lot of traffic. So if the applicant can revise his plans and show you how the parking is going to work and how the drop-off is going to work, I think the board would feel comfortable. If he can't, well then he can.
You feel comfortable you can revise the plans?
I feel comfortable that revisions can be made, and if the revisions can be made that the board's going to be comfortable, we will come back and present that application. So we'd like to carry it to the next available meeting. The next meeting is June 5th, which I don't think there's anyone on that agenda, correct?
June 18th, we are anticipating getting a couple schools on there. We haven't scheduled anything yet, aside from the one we carried over tonight. So June 18th is looking like a school night.
And again, we'll have a statement from the school as was discussed. I think this one rushed through the tech process, yes.
This one and the following application, we skipped the plan review meeting process on because we knew we had a lot of schools coming up, and tonight's agenda was pretty much empty. So we took these 2 small applications, skipped the plan review meeting, and fast forwarded them to public hearing, so that may be partly why the applicant's not necessarily.
And it doesn't work.
There's schools, you
I
don't
feel
need
comfortable
the schools.
that new lines will address the issues and you'll have a plan.
Okay. I think close to the public, silence wanted to speak to the public. Please state your name for the record.
Alexander Rosenbaum, 109 Central.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm the testimony that will be before this board will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please spell your last name for the record.
Rosenbaum.
And please proceed.
Okay, I'll put it down the way I put it down to my place this morning. It's a residential area for the next mile and a half. There's something called a legal loophole. A legal loophole is not the correct way of doing things. That means if we have any way legally to stop this, there does not belong a daycare and a school on a lot of 75 by 100 that's residential all over the place. For a guy to take a piece of property that the value was $400,000, couldn't sell it, buy it at $500,000 at a discount because you don't want to go commercial, that all our neighbors, I have to have a school on my next door. If it's legal and it's conforming and we can't stop it, I put my hands up, it's my bad investment. If it's not, what are we doing?
I'm the next door neighbor, I'm having cars backing into me, good, he'll put up a fence, he won't put up a fence. And now it's a daycare, 3 years from now it doesn't work, and a school, and a safety comes, and all the rest, and what are we living in? Why are we coming into a residential area? You wanna do it on your block. Come into the R12 zone, go to your house, buy your next door house, and put up a school there, because you're conforming with all the rules. If we're not conforming, if we can't fight it, I put up my hands, I lose. But if we couldn't, there's any iota of room that we can turn this down. What if somebody from the innocent neighbors bought a house at $100,000 more than its value, plans to guard the whole house, we're looking for neighbors in the neighborhood, we'd like to have a house in there, we'd like to have residential, we'll put in a school there. And today it's a daycare with 30 kids, and 3 years from now, you guys know what happens there. The starting school start there, the school buses start coming in, and we'll just squeeze and push. For what? There's nothing in the next line. Why you come here? Because it worked out that you don't have to go buy a commercial piece of property for $750,000, so we have to take that brunt of money? It's a shul in the neighborhood, anybody from the neighborhood needs it? I'm sorry, it's unexplainable as far as I know. You had a phone call at 3 o'clock this afternoon to maybe settle something about it. I don't see where it's straight. I asked my Rav, he told me fight it. What are you bringing here? We don't know what 3 years from now is going to be down the road. So if we're forced to it, we're forced to it. And if we're not forced to it, anything that can give us a legal reason to turn it down, it should be turned down. Okay. Not fair.
Thank you very much. Okay, Elliot, Chaim Biden just texted me that he's pulling out the show. Tonight?
The other school.
The next application.
Okay, I know he was hoping to get the school out here and support it, but I'm sure they didn't do it.
He just sent me a text.
Well, this one and the following one is the applicant is requesting both the 3 and 2. Unless the board wants to act on this application.
Yes, Mr. Stern. I'm closing with the public.
Okay. I know you said you want to come back and give us revised plans. I'm a pretty good reader of body language. I don't think this is going anywhere. That's just my personal, it's my personal opinion, so I'm not speaking for the board. I think if this application came back into any quasi-commercial place in these 10 variances, we will bend over backwards. This is the wrong place. And I don't want to see them spend more money on plans and have them come back and, I'm speaking for myself, I just don't want people wasting on your time. I'm being blunt. Yeah.
But the question on the use.
You're good, Brian, you're not that good.
The question on the use is it's a permitted.
It's permitted use, but there are 4 variances being requested because for the change of use. You want to keep the house, keep the house. Now you're looking for a daycare with 4 variances. I agree with Mr. Stern.
The applicant is respectfully requesting the opportunity to carry the application to the June 18th.
Okay, my only question is, if you know you have so much opposition, maybe you do go to a tech meeting.
We'd be happy to come to a tech.
Al is not available? I told you to review it beforehand?
I think that's an excellent idea. Just want to put on the record, if you're going to come back, we have to have a certification plan as to how cars are going to go into the site, come out of the site, and equally important, how people are going to be parking and staging to have their kids come in and out.
Yeah.
That's number one. I want to touch upon something that Dave raised a question about 5 or 10 minutes ago. What happens if we have more paving accepted? If you look at our comment 12, Dave, we put this in all change of review site plan exemptions because we don't know if there's going to be improvements or not. We basically say if you want to add any improvements, it's no longer a site plan exemption. You have to design, you have to make your proof. It fully adheres to the applicable design standards.
I don't think we could give a site plan exemption on this.
From what we're hearing now.
There's too much unknowns.
This is morphing into a minor site plan.
Okay, so When could be the next step, you they close it? If you get in before the 18th?
You're probably looking July realistically.
Yeah, the next text meeting's June 5th, I don't think we can get a letter done, and that we don't have it.
What would the tech meeting date be?
July 9th is the next one.
July 9th.
Unless we want to schedule a special one at the end of June.
Well, that's John, the board feels they would like to go for work right now, instead of wasting the time on that. Does he have a right to say that he wants to come back?
No, you can vote on the application, if there are cases, and this is a chance, you don't have to give them the terms or anything, you can vote on it.
And if it goes down, then they have to change the plan.
They can withdraw the application.
We would withdraw the application at this point, and we'll review what makes sense and do our work, so the applicant would like to withdraw the application.
Okay, and if you ever come back, I think you should go to tech meeting. But pushing it through with so many unknowns, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're on to number 5. If anybody's here. Who's the attorney for number 5?
This is the application under the name of Hyde Body. It's a just received a text from, but I don't see him here.
No, that's number 4.
Oh, you want to go to number 5?
Number 4 is being skipped tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
We're going
Please be quiet in the audience.
We're going to application SP 2317 made by Base Address of Albert Court. This is a major site plan for a synagogue located at 699 Albert Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, could I clarify, you said number 4 is being skipped, do you mean we'll hear it later, or it's not being?
No, that's what I said. Mr. Alani just sent me a text. He's calling it for tonight.
So you have to ask for a motion to adjourn it? And then
That's what I'm asking you. When do we do it?
Yeah, I sent him an email because I don't have a cell phone number. I just wanted to confirm that was correct. So, if yours can confirm, he's talking about the Joe Parker Road application.
Want to sell?
Sure. You can make the announcement after. So we will continue to take the direction of
I'm sorry to interrupt, but, so the board is being skipped, we don't want to sit here, once we come back.
we will be able to make that legal announcement momentarily after I confer with the applicant.
Hopefully within 5 minutes.
Okay, so we'll interrupt the proceeding when we get that information.
Yes. Okay, who's the attorney for number 5? Is the attorney here? Mr. Winston, you're the attorney? Albert
Beginning on our May 14th review, under submission waivers on page 3 of the liability letter, we have various waivers, including traffic study, topo contours, man-made features within 200 feet, wells and septic, plans and profiles, environmental impact statement. The first submission waiver has been requested from traffic study. We do not have that.
Oh, sorry. The audience can keep it down. Thank you.
We do not have a traffic study, Chairman. The board will have to decide whether it wants to move forward or not without the study. Submission waivers are requested from site features, the B waivers. We have no objections with that. With regard to the submission waivers for the wells, the applicant's engineer doesn't have that information. It's my understanding that if the board acts favorably, they're going to give design information such that the project is going to be compliant with applicable regulations. Profiles, we are okay with profiles being waived for hearing purposes only. We will be requesting at least some profiles of utility crossings during compliance. if the project's approved. And then finally, under submission waiver for EIS, the applicant indicates that they do not have an EIS. However, there's no known environmental constraints on the property per DEP information.
Okay, so I would ask for a motion to hold on with engineer's recommendation for everything besides the traffic study. We want to hear from the applicant, the engineer for the machine. So besides the traffic study, we want to hold on that engineer's recommendation. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any other?
That's another submission waiver, Chairman.
Any variances?
Yes. We'll go back to the traffic study I assume. Under zoning, as indicated on page 4 of the review, variance is required for minimum front yard setback, for accessory building minimum side yard setback, and relief is necessary with respect to the proposed off-street parking spaces. And finally, there's a 20-foot perimeter buffer requirement to adjoining residential properties, which the applicant will testify to in terms of what's proposed or what's necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Miriam Weinstein on behalf of Base Medrash Albert Corp. Back in September of 2014, I appeared before this board for a change of use site plan exemption to convert an existing residence to a synagogue on this property. At that time, the shul was constructed in a trailer on the property. The house, I believe, was maintained as the rabbi's residence. The time has now come to construct a more permanent home for this synagogue. Hence, we are here this evening for preliminary and final major site plan approval to construct a brand new 2-story synagogue with a basement on the property. The existing trailers will remain on the site as an accessory use to the shul. It will house the youth groups for the neighborhood, what we refer to as the Nos and Pirchei groups. There is a front yard setback variance due to the unique long and narrow shape of the property and the fact that it fronts on 3 streets, Albert, South, and Oak Streets, and therefore has 3 front yard setbacks. In our testimony, we will provide the justification for the granting of this variance. The applicant has agreed to reduce the size of the sanctuary to 2995 square feet, such that even with the township's most recent interpretation of the parking ordinance for shuls, which we happen to disagree with, right now it's 3,300. But by shrinking it, it will be indisputable that there will be no need for a parking variance, even utilizing the standards that the board has been interpreting in recent months. We'll discuss it in we will discuss it, but like I said, we'll shrink the sanctuary and we will comply with the standards and we'll explain it, no problem. This is a well-established neighborhood. It's a single-family home neighborhood. It is the R20 zone, which means that 20,000 square foot lots are required. This is not a very dense neighborhood. This is not a fast-growing neighborhood. It's not a house. Are you listening to me? Again, it's not a very dense neighborhood. It's not a neighborhood that is townhouses, has duplexes springing up all over the place with lots and lots of basements. We know the current parking needs of the shul. It exists. They're expected to remain roughly the same even after the new building is built. You can't cram in, however many duplexes or townhouses as we have in some other neighborhoods. In the R20 zone, that's just simply impossible. As far as the Kiddush room, there, I know this is Mr. Stone, his ears are perking up. There will not be a rentable simcha hall. This really and truly is a Kiddush room for Shabbos. Yes, they will make an occasional bris for a member. They have no reason to have a rentable Kiddush hall at this location. In case you're not familiar, a hop, skip, and a jump away, they have Tiferes Beis Yaakov, Nima Sachayim, Benos Tavora. They can walk. They're on the very next. They're on the same block. So really and truly, this is not going to be a hall that is used for bar mitzvahs, for varts, and for the types of simchas that typically breed those huge parking there's huge parking needs that we deal with on all these shuls. Like I said, it's for Shabbos, and we're not going to lie to you and say the members won't make a bris there. The members will make a bris there. They do live in the neighborhood. They've been doing that now. Even they have a bris in the shul there now, and the parking needs should be sufficient. Mind you, like I said, we are going to meet your guidelines for parking in any event as per the new standards. Let me call Brian at this point. Let me have him sworn, and we're going to give you all the testimony on the parking and explain to you how we're conforming with your standards.
Before we swear in Brian, Ally indicated to me that she can't get a hold of Mr. Abadi, and that June 18th is the date that we could use. So if you want to ask, hold on. All right, let me swear Mr. Flannery. Mr. Schmuckler is going to try to find out what they can. Do you swear a firm testimony to give before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Brian Flannery Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer and professional planner. With respect to the number of parking spaces, as Miriam indicated, we're going to reduce the size of the sanctuary down underneath the 3,000 square foot threshold. This means that using the current interpretation, which we've discussed before, and I don't see the sense in going back to that. It's an early night if you want to go over doing it for the income tax code or doing it this way, but doing it the most restrictive way, which is the way it's been done recently, that would be 1.25 times 2,995, 37 parking spaces, and we have 38, so we comply. As Miriam indicated, we're not having a simple hall in the basement, we're having a kiddish hall, so there's no additional parking for that. So the plans had indicated we needed 37. New line did it for in accordance with the way I would do it, that from 0 to 2,000 is 1 per, so that's 20 spaces. 2,000 to 3,000 is 1 for 1.25, so that's 12.5. And then from 3 to 3 is another 4.5. But none of that makes any sense. We're making it 2,995, and we're complying with the park.
Brian, how many members are there in the shul?
It's an existing shul. One of the congregants just said 80. It's the same shul that we have, so they've been parking on the grass and parking in the same area. The number of parking spaces that they're proposing is what's been utilized in non-parking type areas. They feel comfortable it's the right number.
And how many prayer times are there in the morning?
Mr. Meyer, this is your applicant if you want an update on what.
I know, but the one fellow that was here to speak, he just left because he thought it was.
I'm just waiting to find out what the applicant's plans are, so.
If you'd like us to, if you're going to have a lot of these questions, we can certainly put we'll put up a member from the shul to answer all those questions. I think we should let Brian give his testimony first on the.
It was just those two for me.
No, we'll call somebody now to answer all the questions. This way you can get the appropriate testimony. Come on up.
Sir, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony to give before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name.
Moshe Botnick.
Please spell your last name.
Botnick.
Your witness.
Sorry?
Oh, thank you so much. Mr. Botnick, first of all, if you can just tell the board, how many members are there currently in the shul?
Roughly 80.
And currently, where do the members park currently?
We currently have 18 spots as part of the existing approval for the shul. Members are parking there, and they've also been parking on the grass in front of the shul along Albert Avenue, as well as along South Street. The proposed striped parking, which we're including as part of our application, has the same amount or more striped spots as you'll find between all those vehicles on a regular day.
don't anticipate more traffic in the area?
We do not. As Miriam said before, this is an established shul. It's been around for several years. As a matter of fact, in more recent times, we've had a couple of new shuls open up. So this is really us going to the next level and building up a long-term shul to house our current membership. We're not anticipating a major increase in membership at this time. Increase in family size, perhaps. We'd like to make more space for children, but not a major increase in adult membership and vehicles.
Thank you. Brian, I guess you can continue. Oh, yeah, question, the applicant?
I'm looking at a map. Hamilton runs into Oak. Oak is heavily traveled with the schools. Any traffic study on this? Because it's going to be coming out into a very highly traveled street. And actually, it's one of the few through streets. How we're going up to hours, water by.
Well, one of the items on Terry's list was with respect to the traffic study. The traffic study, if it's a new shul or new business, there's going to be some impact on the area. As indicated here, this is an existing established shul in an R20 zone. So these people already come to this site to pray. The same people are going to be coming. It's a neighborhood shul, so they're in the neighborhood. So the impact on Oak Street is going to be virtually the same after this is approved as it is before. They're just making a nice building.
Maybe we overlooked something we should have seen.
Well, I think the people that are impacted that are the people in the neighborhood, and I think that they're showing a hand of who's here in favor of the shul. These are the people who would know best if something was overlooked, and they feel that it wasn't.
I just want to make it safe.
Yeah, well, prior to that, there used to be that silly circle there at that intersection, which was replaced and the traffic light is put in. So it's a much better situation now than it had been. So I think I hit on my testimony with respect to why we feel that a traffic study is not needed. It's an established shul in an R20 area. It's the congregants go there and pray now. Nothing's really going to be changing on that. So it's my testimony that would be needed. We get to the variance relief that's requested. The minimum front yard setback from Albert, we're asking for 10.8. I have three renderings marked. A1 is the tax map. I'm sure everybody is familiar with where this is. It's on Albert between Oak and South Street. A1 shows that in orange on sheet 111 of the tax map. A2 is the map that's submitted showing what we're asking for. The existing trailer is colored in blue, and in pink is the new proposed shul that's being requested. A3 is the existing conditions map, which again shows in blue the shul, and it shows the existing house that's on the site now that will be removed to make room for the additional parking area.
Brian, why can't you just go back and allow it such? It seems like there's plenty of room back there now.
No, the back is set at the 10 feet from the neighbor. That's a property line right there. So this building is 10.8 to the steps. It's actually 17 to the actual building. We can't move in an easterly direction because we're at the.
I didn't mean these in the southerly direction. Deeper into the lot.
Well, and we're going for a usable width on the building, something that's usable that fits the uses. We have on the very north of the site we have the septic field. Then it's all loaded with parking, and then this building fits in how the applicant feels it will be appropriate for the neighborhood. The blue thing is the existing trailer that's going to stay for the uses for the children as they would walk through the parking lot. So So, again, going to Terry's report, page 4, the minimum front setback variance, 10.08, again, that's to the steps. The actual building is back another 7 feet. The minimum side yard setback, the trailer that's there when it was built, it was put a few inches off, so that's an existing condition, so we're asking to, it wasn't granted at 9.5. It was intended at 10, it was built at 9.5, it's been there for years. The applicant is requesting to leave that where it is, so we're asking for that variance at this time. Number 4 was with respect to parking, which we're now indicating that we fully complied. Number 5 is with respect to the 20-foot buffer. There's 2 lots that were impacted. If you look on 111, lot 21, which is on the northerly side of the site, nothing is changing other than a few parking spaces. The southerly side, we are changing. There's an existing house and some trees now that's being taken down. We would be proposing a 6-foot solid fence there. If the neighbor wanted a higher fence, we would put in whatever type of fence the neighbor wanted. Additionally, as we typically do on shuls, we would propose frosted windows on this side, so there's to minimize the impact into the rear yard.
Do they currently do Grissom at the location where they are now?
Yes,
They do. Okay, so it's not changing the aspect of the.
no. As far as, just one correction with regard to the windows, as far as the windows to the neighbor, they're either going to force them or come up with some other way to block the visibility to the satisfaction of that neighbor who we've met with and spoken with. Something, we'll do something to make sure that the neighbor is comfortable that the visibility is blocked. We didn't want to commit to frosted windows, just that the members of the shul didn't feel they necessarily look so nice. If that's the only thing they can come to an agreement with the neighbor with, they will, but we just don't want to make it the resolution to specify it has to be frosted windows. But the 6-foot vinyl fence was agreed upon with the neighbor, and that will definitely be put there. Sorry. The neighbor is here, but
Yeah, you're looking for a front yard setback from 30 to 10.
Yes, that's just to the steps of the building. It's 17 to the actual building.
That's a 70% reduction in setback.
And if that was the front of the building, I would tend to agree with you. But the people driving down the street aren't going to be looking at where the steps are. They're looking at where the building is. The building's set back 17 feet, which is not a 70% reduction. And it's my testimony that in order to build a proper shul that accommodates the room sizes and the uses that are required, it's my testimony, and I was going to go through the justification for the variances when I finished up my testimony on that. But that is my testimony, that's the applicant's position. With respect to the justification for those variances, if we look at the master plan 2017, the vision statement says, encourage development and redevelopment based on smart growth planning principles. And this is a typical neighborhood shul that started in a trailer, and now they're coming with a proper shul. It's my testimony that this is a proper size for the neighborhood. The number of parking spaces is more than the typical shuls in Lakewood being put prior to 2017.
Running that master plan that you're reading?
No, that's not in the master plan. Well, the master plan recommended looking at that, and the township committee apparently didn't take that because it's the same rules. The rules just interpreted differently. If the parking space rule was interpreted in November of 2017, it would have been 29 parking spaces.
which the committee probably would change, right, Justin?
So the vision statement says encourage development and redevelopment. On page 10 of the same report, it indicates encourage compact cluster community design, and this is part of that cluster community design, so that you have a neighborhood shul that the people can use for their services. The municipal land use law, NJAC 40:55B2, under the purpose of the act is to A, encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use and development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And my testimony that this promotes the general welfare. It's a C1 and a C2 variance. It's a very narrow lot. In order to fit a proper size shul on there, we need some relief. With the C2 aspect of it, we need to show that the benefits outweigh the detriment. And my testimony is that benefits is you get to construct a proper shul, and there's virtually no detriment because it's something that when you're driving down Albert, it's not going to look out of the way. It's going to benefit the neighbors, most of who are part of the shul. Continuing in the report, Terry has comments on his fire safety, and obviously we're going to comply with all the building codes with respect to fire safety. ADA access and sprinklers will be provided as needed. It's our opinion that sprinklers are not needed for the building, and we're in an area that's not well and septic. If somebody determines that they are, well then we would have to comply with any outside agency approval with respect to that.
What is it, well water?
Yes. Yes.
Sprinkler system on well water?
You can put one on well water, and again, you'd have to do some kind of a booster pump. You probably have to have a backup generator or something. The applicant will do whatever is needed to be done to comply with the building codes, and those are outside agency approval. And my testimony and the applicant's position is that we're going to comply with all of the outside agency approval. With respect to landscaping, the Shade Tree Commission had some recommendations, and my testimony is always that we'll do whatever is reasonable and for the ordinance on those, and they actually look pretty reasonable. So
The issue is to absorb the rainwater that they have. That's why they want the certain types of trees.
Yes, and on these particular items, it does look like it's very reasonable, and I would anticipate we'd be complying with the law. Everything else in the report we would agree.
Any questions from any board members? Seeing none, we'll move to the public. Anybody from the public like to be heard on this application, please come forward. Seeing none. Want to speak? I'm glad. Okay, you have to go from this. You have to go. You have to be informed.
Please raise your right hand. You affirm the testimony that you put forward with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing.
What's your name?
Did you say yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Watson, W-A-S-S-E-R-M-A-N. And your interest?
I'm looking for votes.
Please proceed.
Okay. The initial is a great idea, and we're going to throw it as neighbors. Just want to clarify the windows facing our property. We discussed earlier about most of the windows. Having guaranteed that there always going to be no visibility inside the shul to our property or anything else.
There's once you testify for, when you behind or frosted, there's something that.
There will be something that is noticeable, because the person will meet with you, we will make sure that you are satisfied. If the only answer that's been satisfied is frosted windows, then we'll provide frosted windows. But we'd like to be able to explore other options. That's all.
It's going to now be a condition in the approval.
Yes, please put it as a condition in the approval that there's going to be no visibility from the property at 1435 Oak, which is River Washington's property.
Where's the women's section going to be situated in the sanctuary? So same level, not higher up?
They're not sworn, so they can't.
So you can say.
They're not sworn, so it's not in there.
The plans include a women's sanctuary on the second floor. However, the sanctuary is located on the opposite side of the building from where this neighbor lives. It's only partially over the first floor, and it's on the westerly side. This neighbor is on the eastern side of the lot.
So they wouldn't be able to look out the window from the women's section into the other person's property?
Anybody else from the public like to be heard, please come forward.
Seeing no one, close the public.
Chairman, may I ask for clarification?
Yes.
With respect to the 6-foot fence, is that also only along the property adjacent to the building and the one neighbor, or is that along the entire property line and that house that is in the back as well?
Part of it's, there's an existing fence there now, wherever there isn't, they're gonna fill it in.
Thank you.
I would ask for a motion on this application.
I'll move to approve the application.
I'll second.
With the, across the windows and the.
Well, not across the window.
Whatever, the windows, they come to the agreement.
And the so-called
The so-called will not be, rented.
We talked a lot about prison, hopefully in the future the bar mitzvahs there also.
The bar mitzvahs, we said they can make down, the bar mitzvahs, they're gonna make down the
As time goes
block.
on, you know.
We said we're gonna make them down the block, we're
That's
not
the
making
plan.
bar mitzvahs.
Mr. Isaacson moved and Mr. Meyer second. Roll call.
Mr. Garfield.
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
Mr. Flansbrough.
Yes.
Mr. Herzl.
Yes.
Mr. Isaacson.
Yes.
Mr. Meyer.
Yes.
Mr. Raisik.
Yes. Okay, Ally.
Thank you very much.
Okay, please leave quietly behind the slab of the wall.
Mr. Bonnet, I apologize for the confusion.
Right. So I apologize. Folks, we're still in the middle of the meeting here.
And anybody else who's here before, besides you? You two, right? 3 people here. Okay.
Mr. Meyer, were you able to get in touch with the gentleman who had left?
Yes, he's right
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry.
He's right here. That's why I want to make sure that everybody's here.
And I know just for the board's concern, we did not make the, Mr. Jackson did not make the.
Right, we didn't pull it.
So,
I know. We want to verify.
I wanted to ask John a question for the last application. Please. Very briefly.
Yeah, please.
So I got a call today from one of the members of the show. And I said, look, you know, we don't have ex-parte contact, but, you know, he's an old friend. And I talked to him briefly. Do we have a rule? What's our rule?
The decisions are supposed to be made on the record and based on information that comes from the witness stand. And what you review, of course, on the board's file of submissions. It's difficult because you live in town, people don't know better, and they'll come up. I say that you politely tell them that you can't talk about the application. And that's, say that they'll have to address it at the hearing.
They have a right to come to the hearing, that's whatever they want.
You tell them that. I know it's difficult, and I know that people that come up to you don't know better. But just politely point out to them that you're not permitted to discuss the case because that could jeopardize your vote on the case. Because it's only felt that there was an outside influence that could result in reversal of the case.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Chairman, we are considering SB 2329AA made by Hyma Body. It's a change of use site plan exemption to convert an existing house to a school located at 555 Joe Parker Road. Mr. Abadi did just hand out an aerial photograph and then marked as exhibit A1 for this application.
Yes, I will, Chair. As indicated in our May 14th review, page 2 under section 1 zoning, there's an accessory side yard setback, variance condition, which is a pre-existing condition. A design waiver is required from providing 20-foot buffer to a residential use, as well as for putting parking within the buffer. Design waiver is required from providing a bus loading unloading area, and final design waivers are necessary, including but not limited to curbing the sidewalk along property frontages, shade tree and utility easements, shade trees, lighting, and landscaping. If you look at the format of the letter, very similar to the application 2 ago, we asked for the same information relative to what's going to be done here, number of students, driving, parking, parents, buses. And then again, if the board feels there's a need for site plan improvements, that's a requirement of the agreement.
Thank you, Tim.
Nice you want some report from the 10th meetings. A lot of these questions get answered for you.
You hope a lot of these questions get answered.
No, I gotta tell you, I have faith in you, you do a good job.
I'm not saying it, Chairman.
Right.
It would be really nice to have this before the meeting.
Right. Okay.
Hi, good evening.
Mr. again, do you swear or affirm that the testimony will give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Affirm.
Please specify your last name.
Anybody outside the room?
I'm Abadi.
See people's name, but. Nobody here.
I'm Abadi, C-H-A-I-M, A-B-A-D-I, 245 Miller Road, Lakewood, New Jersey, always 701. Application is for a school, which is not a typical school that we have. The amount of students that are going to be in the school will be approximately 20 to 30. The school is not the regular Lakewood type school. It's a school for children that have different ways how they want to learn. And it's a different type of school. They're not, that type of learning is not done in the regular Lakewood schools. That's why we made such a school for them. They have a college program to prepare them for college, become professionals. It's different than the typical Lakewood school, which we're all aware of, that they don't prepare for college, they don't do a lot of college. That's the main reason for opening the school. There's no students that drive or park at the school. Parents are supposed to drive the children, or they arrange for Uber, or different ways how to get to school, but almost always, probably 2 or 3 girls come in a car with a parent, or an Uber.
What's the maximum amount of students you want?
Right now we're at 17 or 19.
What's the maximum you fit into a building?
The building, about 25, 30. He had it at 22. Sorry, 10, 12 before was 26. Basically, there's 3 classrooms. There's 2 larger classrooms and some small classrooms. Not typical 9, 10, 12 grades.
It's more small session.
More different grades and together, different classes, different things going on, just a computer room. The teacher is pretty much the newly 3-4 teachers set them at any given time and so on. The other question that was on the list here is how many students we got also all of them dropped out. Right, so they like
Move over the mic. Move it down. Thank you. No, put your mouth. I want to make sure we have it ready. Okay.
So the building will be empty in the evenings?
I'm sorry?
The building will be empty in the evenings, you're saying?
Building will be empty in the evenings, yes. School starts approximately 10 o'clock and ends at 3:45.
No dormitory on
There's no dormitory on site, there's no sleeping, it's captured, one of the rooms is captured, but there's no sleeping allowed, maybe during the day during school, but not 10 days. I'm sorry?
Or in class.
In class also allows sleeping.
I see the students that happy to get in the couch.
Is a class or school, will be able to drop the kids off different times?
They're supposed to be there by 10. Human nature dictates that they're not always there on time.
Is it a full day school?
It's from 10 to 3:45.
Classes are not open up.
Right, no.
What's
Students
there existing right now in that building?
Right now, it's the building?
Mr. Chairman.
It's a house?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just put
That's the basement of the first floor.
If you look at the basement, you'll notice that they're in the middle, there's 3 little boxes. In the middle of the basement. Those say unoccupied. Because those are full level. The rest of it says unexcavated or crawl space. Because there's really no basement. There's a few hundred square feet of see where the steps are? And to the right, behind the steps, and to the left of the steps are, I believe it says unoccupied.
And that's all crawl space?
That's all, no, that's basement area. It's a 7.5 foot high. The rest of it is all unexcavated, meaning it's crawl space.
can't be used.
We don't plan on having any classrooms now.
In the crawl space, no. No, and they're not by also, they're just, they're not using the storage, just small little rooms, and they have concrete, 2 of concrete.
What's going to be turned into class?
What's in what?
The master bedroom and the other 3 bedrooms are all going to be classrooms?
The existing bedroom on the left back, which plan are you looking at, the existing plan or the proposed plan?
Is that proposed?
Yes, the proposed plan.
Sorry.
That's okay. There it is.
Per our read of the architectural plans, Chairman, I think you have 5 offices, 5 rooms and 2 offices proposed.
Right.
Which would require 7 spaces at given time.
So the 9 spaces that we have, which you see are on the parking driveway area, which is not functional to some extent, that'll work to drop off and back out. You look at the plan. Here is the driveway, here is the parking. This whole area is driveway, parking. The picture that you have in front of you, you'll see that the cars are parked in that gravel area right now. On the Google map, I gave you a picture of it.
The cars are going to back out onto Joe Park, or are they going to make a turnaround?
I want them to make, ideally, we want them to make a turnaround in the gravel area and go back.
Joe Park people go very
Right,
fast.
right. Now, here's just now, the J, one of the neighbors, and it's maybe we'll have to widen the back or make a circle.
Yeah, but one of the homeowners did turn around and keep my parking space.
Right, so you may have to do that. I guess I could work that out in resolution compliance with Terry.
So if approval is granted, you're going to have a paved turnaround?
You could do that, yes. I have my engineer design it and show it to you when we go over the design. But then we don't have to deal with that problem. The other issue that was brought up is the waiver needed for a 20-foot buffer. I may be mistaken, but I thought that a fence takes care of that buffer issue, otherwise we do need a waiver for the 20 feet within next door to a residential property. The school needs a 20-foot buffer.
The school is considered commercial?
The board, now, the board has traditionally granted a waiver to compensate for horizontal space if it feels that a fence and or landscaping is adequate to provide buffer. That's the way it's basically written in the UDO.
Okay.
Do you agree to put landscaping along the trees?
Yes, the only issue that Jay just told me about is that if you look at the survey, you'll notice that our fence is a few feet onto his property. Okay. So we're going to have to move that.
That's the mom's.
The mom's fence, I'm sorry.
You'll have a chance. We have to have you on, you'll have a chance to us.
The neighboring property, we're a few feet onto that fence is on a few feet onto his property, so we're going to have to move that. And then we probably will have to cut some of the asphalt to put landscaping in front of that. That's what the board would like.
Do you agree that the fence is on the wrong place?
It's on the survey. You have the survey in front of you.
Yeah. That's correct. Okay. Do you have enough room to move over and still do the 9 parking spaces, turn around, whatever you have to do?
Whatever do I have enough room because there's 23 feet to the garage.
Okay.
That gives me the room that I need to go back and forth. The other design waiver reference to curbing the sidewalk. I would do it. I'd rather put the bond up because there's nowhere else for them to walk. I put a sidewalk, that means they can walk there. Sit there, I'm not sure what they'll do there, I'd rather they didn't do it.
But there's no sidewalks in Joe Park now?
Right now, there's no sidewalks there.
Over there, the whole Joe Park has no sidewalks?
I don't know how far.
Did the board grant the waiver for curb and sidewalks for the neighboring property? I can't ask the applicant because he's not sworn in. Do you know that?
I don't know.
I think what we did to the neighboring property was, the neighboring property was just for subdivision purposes.
Correct.
So for subdivision purposes, we granted the waiver, but we said to come back with the plot. They have to come with this curb and sidewalk when they do the plot.
That's my
That was only for the subdivision.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm okay. I guess I'll work it out in engineering. I'd rather wait for the subdivision to happen and put the sidewalk and I'll put up the bond meanwhile. I'd just rather not put it in now.
Mr. Vance used to say, one day there'll be sidewalks all over.
He's not that long.
We got to tie them together.
What?
Well, put a bond.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
obviously the variance for the existing condition, simple variance. Other comments? I think that was it. Terry, I believe that was it.
I believe you've hit all of them.
You agree with everything else on Terry's report?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any questions from any board members? Okay, seeing none, I will open up to the public. If you come forward. All the neighbors who want to speak, you come forward. No, let him finish and you go. Yeah, come on, whoever wants to go first.
I look at the.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can, you can take it.
Do you swear or affirm testimony you give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You can come in if you want to see it. You can come in.
Please state your name.
My name is Francis Meyer. I'm the executor for my mother's estate, which is the adjoining property.
Board.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah, joining this or joining that one?
The one with the pool.
The one that, the one with the
Hey.
Want the really cool pool?
I guess. It's the one with the circular driveway.
Okay, yeah,
It's the one, the farm was access.
They have different color water in both pools. Okay, please proceed.
Okay. Basically, he's looking for a variance from the 20-foot buffer, which is, you can have a school in, it's an R20 zone, I believe, and you need a 20-foot buffer. The driveway that's there is just a few inches from the property line. There's no way there's going to be 20 foot of buffer there. And if you put a fence, the tallest fence you're going to put is 6 foot, correct? I believe on the side, maybe 8 foot. It still doesn't mitigate having a good size buffer there. The parking situation in the front of the property. To be honest, I built the house 20 years ago, so I know the intimate details of it. The septic is in the front yard, so really you can't put parking over top of septic. So you really can't put any additional parking in the front yard. As far as from the existing garage that's there, there's about 20 feet to the property line. I don't know whether you can get two-way traffic in there or not for circulation. If I read the laws on the property, you should have a bus plan for it at some point and adequate
He said
parking.
there will be no buses on the property. That's what he said. Is that correct, Rabbi? Did you say there will be no buses coming to the property?
But things progress. You know, it could be that you have buses in the future. And I guess my question for the board is, when I see a bus on the property, who do I complain to in the future?
The inspection department.
Well, they'll tell me it's a school.
I understand, but this testimony is that we will not bring any bus on the property.
I didn't really see how many students were going to be there. Is that stated clearly?
I think he testified 26 to 30 max.
26 to 30.
Was that correct?
He said the max occupancy of the building is 26.
We don't have that in writing or anything, do we? Or it is now?
So I'd like to be limited to, let's say, the 30 max.
I think it's on the plan. Is there another plan?
30 max, nothing more. Anything more, you have to come back to the board. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that the neighbor wants to know what's the max.
So the 39 students and how many staff?
Total? Not 30 max. 30 max. 39 students.
Is that 30 students or is that 30 with the
30
teachers support?
30 students max, right?
How many students and how many staff maximum?
Staff can always be 3, 4, and students are going to be 25, 20, 17, 25, 30.
When you said right now you have 17, but you're agreeing to a max of 30.
Right.
I just want to make sure that I was already.
Including that.
As far as the fence that he spoke about before, that's our fence. It's not, it's his fence that's over our property. That was a decorative fence that was put up. And if we had the fence on the property line, you would definitely be able to see how tight it is. And I don't think you'd get the plans in there. Also, the lot, you're supposed to have 125 feet for school in that zone. The lot is not that wide. I believe it's maybe 100 feet wide. I'm committing from memory, so I'm not terribly wide. So the shape of the lot is like a spaghetti box. It's not a lot of frontage. And plus it's on, as far as getting in and out of there, it's on a county road. It comes zipping around that corner. It's pretty tight to hit and impact the area.
It doesn't say that the plan says that you need 100 feet, and he's providing 115. That's what the plan
So
says.
It's the R20 standard.
It has to be the R20 standard, right?
Which is
correct.
Is 100?
Yeah, that's 100.
Yeah, and he has 115.
Right.
So that does conform. I thought it was 125.
How high of a fence, if we do approve it, how high of a fence would you like on your side?
Necessarily like any fence, but that's why it's all open fence, but.
No, would you like a 4 foot or a 6 foot, or you rather have a lower
I
one?
couldn't tell you, to be honest, I'd have to give it some thought.
Robert, Buddy, what were you planning to put on? What kind of fence? What's the maximum height that we can go over there?
It's 8 foot. I believe you could grant a variance for up to 8 feet.
Okay,
I believe.
Or you want to ask for that variance just in case the neighbor wants that? Because just in case, you'll satisfy the neighbor regarding the fence and work out Terry. But if we need a variance, you're asking for it today, before 8 foot.
Have you two sat down and talked?
I just met him outside because I was leaving and thought this was dismissed and put off. And I happened to see his truck roll up with his logo on it. So I was all right. And I was two and two together, I could do that, for sure.
Is the road wide enough for cars going in two directions?
Not at all. The existing driveway?
Existing driveway?
No. No, not at all.
Rabbi Abadi, he mentioned that the septic is in the front, and I think there was a discussion to do a turnaround.
That's what you said.
In the front and the back, I'm assuming you can't do it in front if you're going to be covering the septic.
Yeah.
Do you have, I'm saying, is there room to?
Normally, it's not on here, but it will be somehow a way to do it.
To move it.
Accepting only 25 feet down.
The property.
Normally houses, yeah, it's 25, 30, they do turnarounds. Right, so you may have to have a wider turn, you have 115 feet.
You perhaps you have to go.
You have plenty of room. If you-
One in, one out.
I don't want anyone backing out onto Joe Polo.
It's going to be a U, correct? It's going to be a U-type correction, similar in concept to what's on the adjacent property.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's going to be going around with that. Right.
So that will come back to us to the design?
We would review as part of an engineer's site plan, engineering compliance.
It's a standard road that has to comply with whatever the codes are.
And plus it's a county road, is that really?
Yes, I know.
For the county?
It has to get county approval also.
He's not the county.
Our approvals are subject to getting approval by the county. If the county does not approve it, it's even if we approve it, it's no longer.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, and you do have.
That's why I think he's also going to want to turn around, not backing on.
Yeah, no.
County engineering department's going to have to look at it, the county planning board, so.
Right.
So it's a subject to.
Right.
100%.
Subject to all outside regulatory approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next. You please come forward. Just speak into the mic.
My name is Melanie Miley at 567 Gilbert Road.
Okay,
I'm getting a little older. I don't think that-
Excuse me?
I'm getting a little older. I don't hear so good if you
I
speak in the
don't
mic.
either, so.
Please raise your right hand.
That's from a time when,
Do you swear affirm testimony you'll give before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes, I do.
Please give me your last name.
Meyer?
Oh, Meyer, I got it.
Yes. I live in the house at 567 Joe Parker Road, and I've been there for the past 17 years.
You've been down to mic a little? Would be a
What
little
I wanted to state about I had some questions about, which I'm trying to figure out. There's supposed to be a setback with the property or the building. It's going to be the existing house, and I was wondering how that was. Was that within
As far as I know, the building-
R20? It's supposed to be additionally if it's an R20?
As far as I know, it's an existing building. They're not building anything.
Right, they're going to use existing building, but because it's on it's in an R20, it needs to have a certain amount. What is that amount? And then it's supposed to be 40% more or something? I was looking at the zoning rules, I'm not really sure.
Terry, could you explain what she's asking?
Yes.
I'd love to be able to look at the new zoning rules if they were posted.
Well, they're on the internet, I thought.
We don't have access right now, unfortunately.
The internet link has been down for several weeks.
Okay, so whatever is current, the zoning law, that's what.
I go by the written book in my office, but the online, and the clerk obviously controls the ordinance on their official books, but the online website.
So the information I looked at online was not correct?
I don't know where you look through what you're
For Lakewood Township, and then there were things like, for example, you had things that were like cross through, and then you had revisions now. You had things in bold, and then.
I just need to know what website you're talking about. I just know the one that the clerk provides through the township website has been down for some time.
So then we would really have to come into your office to see those rules then.
Can I just interject here? So, I mean, there are two things that I see here at the letter that was issued by the planning board engineer. Number one, that there's an accessory side yard setback of 8.1 feet, which is an existing covered deck, which is going to remain. Typically, there'd be 10-foot required as a side yard setback, but there's an existing deck, so you only have.
No, I was thinking about the front yard, the road and things like that you would need more, and then that's my.
Typically, as far as I know, it's 30 feet. Am I correct, Terry?
Well, the front yard setback in the R20 is 50. I do not have it scaled on the plan, but just looking at the survey, the existing front yard setback
is
almost 100 feet.
Right.
So it's more than 30% of the zone standard, which is 50.
Chairman, if I could just, I know what you're talking about. There's no ordinance that says that a school, anywhere a school goes, they need to add 40% to the required front yard setback. If I put in a 50 here, 40% would be another 20, would be front yard 57.
But then you're on, if you're gonna do the turnaround, which in that area, you're right on a bend in the road. So safety-wise, you want to have that turn.
Well, I think you're talking about two separate issues. I mean, the one issue you're talking about is the front yard setback requirement, and then you're talking about safety issues of the
But what
turnaround.
I'm getting to is
So,
that the
yeah.
setback is with the cesspool and the leach field, you can't be driving on that.
No, right, no, you can't drive on that. So that's one of the reasons that we said if the board approves the application, that the township engineer and planning board engineer take a look at the design. You obviously can't park on the septic system. That's that can't.
So does Ocean County.
If I have a high school student, what if they request bus service? How do you, I mean, is it under the laws of New Jersey, aren't students allowed bus service?
I think yeah, go ahead.
Schools don't get bus service, they get reimbursed. They're told them they're coming all over Lakewood, there's only sense to the bus.
Okay.
But your testimony is that you're not allowing any buses on the site. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Please come forward.
swear from testimony given before this board that the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please state your name.
Francis Hayes, I live at 14 LaQuinta Lane, in Lakewood.
Spell your last name for the record.
Excuse me, sir?
Just spell your last name for the record.
Hayes.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm not as eloquent or as well thought out as these people, but I do have some thoughts on the matter.
Please.
And, you know, I appreciate you listening to me.
Yes.
All right? So, I know that there's 75 private schools in Lakewood. And I know that, you know, for the greater good of a community, a school should be built, okay? I don't think it's necessary here. And I think that the people where I live in over 50 or 55, whatever the age is, I'm older than that, so I don't really care.
You live in the area?
Yes, sir. I live in, on Joe Park, just behind Joe Park.
Well, Lake Reed.
Yes, sir.
Across the street.
I mean,
Well, I mean, thank you, yeah, you're very kind. So, at any rate, I don't see how the greater good is gonna be served here. There's 75 private schools in Lakewood. Directly across the street from where this school is proposed to be is a community of 55 and older, that no one in that school is going to attend, and no one in that community is going to attend, all right? So, the thing is, also of my concern is the drop-off situation. There's no real parking on either side of that road at this time, or if there ever will be, because it's kind of narrow. It's a two-way street, one way each way. I've been up to, on my way here, all right, and every day I pass the corner of County Line and Joe Parker, and there's two buildings there. And here's something that, you know, I just want to bring up as a consideration. I don't know if it's a yeshiva, I don't know if it's a synagogue, I don't know what it is, because it's in Yiddish or Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? So, to me, I couldn't even stand here and say, well, there's a school right down the block. I don't know. All right? I think it would be appropriate for people to have that type of designation on their building. I really do. So, again, with the parking situation, when I go up that road and I get to that corner like I did tonight, cars are parked up on the sidewalk. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous situation, and I don't want to see that result down by where I live, 3/4 of a mile away.
The shoulder over there can't sustain car parking on the side of the road?
On that corner where I'm talking about?
No, in front of this house.
I don't believe so, sir.
You can't park on the street.
No.
I'm saying, I don't mean if you're allowed, I mean, is it physically able to have a car parked in there?
I don't think so. That's what I'm saying. You can't.
It's not wide enough. That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
so these are my concerns. Pardon me?
Rabbi Bali, I think you testified that none of the students are allowed to make cross the school. Is that correct?
Right, but they will be dropped off and picked up. So this sometimes as anybody knows, a kid will be in the school and say, I'll be out in 10 minutes. Parent sits there. It creates a situation. You know? Honestly, I think that's my concerns, okay? And I appreciate you guys listening to me, and I hope you have an open mind about this. And like I said, I'm about the greater good. I don't think this serves the greater good, because the people in my community aren't going to go to that school.
Are there posted signs, no standing in that area, do you know?
I'm not certain, sir.
On the street?
I'm not certain.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry for the confusion about being tonight.
That's okay. Thank you very
I'm
much.
sorry.
Have a good
Thanks
day.
for coming back.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Rabbi Bali.
Thank you.
So, what, first of all, let's just go over what can we do, I don't know how to vote, what can we do for the neighbors?
The fence, we will discuss and everything.
I think a few things, discuss the fence, the turnaround has to be made safe.
It's a few that with the
You have to intervene in the Ocean County.
And then Ocean County has to give approval for the street. For the access, both accesses. Yes.
Okay, now, besides the fence, can you put some trees along the neighbor's property? If there's no room for it?
The driveway
It's
All right.
probably that way.
Mr. Marvin, I just want you on the record. You're on the road. If you're saying anything, please, it should be on the record. Rabbi Vali, is there anything you can do to be a good neighbor? Is there
May I
any-
suggest something, Chairman?
Yes.
Since you're going to be doing a U-shaped drive to begin with, you can abandon a portion of the existing driveway, shift that leg in to provide 5 feet or so to maybe get room to put arborvitae.
Is that?
But you still need the driveway to get the parking.
You're going to shift it inward from the existing location.
We need to get to behind the building, so there has to still be that driveway to get to the
Well, it's
back.
not going to be behind the building. My understanding is you're going
On
to
the street.
the U-shape in front.
But there are still parking spots in the back of the building right now.
I think he means the front portion of the drive so that it's not right up against.
Like the secondary, or you shift it.
Most of the way, so that,
I see.
They cut it, from the garage to the property line is, I think, maybe 22 feet.
I mean, it's
I'm
like-
just guessing from.
So instead of going back and forth between board members.
There's not much you're gonna be able to shift that.
So, I'll have to take a look at it.
the entire first leg of the driveway. I think that's what Sarah's talking about, right? Sarah's moving that over?
About moving it over
Yeah.
to create
Right.
room to put
For
plants.
landscaping, right, for landscaping, right, okay.
You may,
Sorry.
you have to park in front of the building. Parallel to the, park in front of the building, you'd be losing one on the right.
Can I make a suggestion?
Take your turn around. Yeah.
So, we have a property in Dallas, we've been working with one of the neighbors, and they have putting in a homeless shelter. And we asked the same question, sir, what's your name again?
Mr. Meyer.
Mr. Meyer did. Okay, so we can complain to the city, but what's the city going to do? And what we got agreed was, we got a private deed restriction with the homeless shelter about the number of people and whatnot. I have a feeling, this is just me talking, that as an old friend, if you were willing to give a deed restriction about the number of people that will be coming here and no buses, maybe not forever, but for like a 10-year period or something, I think the neighbors' concerns, I could be wrong, might be alleviated considerably, that this doesn't turn into a Mrs. Chaim Abadi and has 5,000 students.
Only problem is
Deed restrictions are not
on the
good.
property, not on owner.
What's that?
Deed restrictions go on the property and they remove the value of the property for title and for banks and loans.
You can't.
No.
I think it's, as far as it's not 30, we said something about 5,000 students. I mean, he's got a house that can only fit 30 people. Right. You know, everything else he's not going to have.
He's gonna come.
Yeah.
And as a good neighbor, you're not going to go over his own.
Would he have the availability to put trailers behind there and expand this?
No, it's just not.
We're not going to put trailers. We will not put trailers. We will not put trailers.
He has to come back in.
You cannot until he comes back.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you can get temporary trailers from the building department unless the board makes some sort of restriction that he
Unless you have to restrict.
Could have restriction, no trailers, not at all.
Okay.
Except for,
Remedial trailers.
remedial, I have no control over.
Right.
I don't know how
And
that
sometimes the state gives, for a special ed or something, they'll give a trailer.
This is in a.
But it's not a classroom. It's not a classroom. It's just.
A trailer's a trailer though, sir.
Mm.
Correct?
Okay.
It's a beautiful, my mom's house, it's a beautiful
Right.
house there. And trailer, and, potential for that. That's ugly.
We're restricting no trailers, right?
We're not going to put a trailer for classroom space now. But the issue is that because of separation of church and state, the remedial, they don't allow because it's funded by the state. That's why the trailers are over time for remedial.
Isn't that's a permanent trailer? I thought it's
No, it's a small trailer.
Yeah, but I thought it comes and goes, I don't think it stays. Does it?
Permanent trailer is an oxymoron. The remedial trailers are not permanent.
I
The
think
other
you know
trailers
what I mean. I think you know what I mean.
and stable.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Is the building going to be used summers?
Excuse me?
Is it just during the school year that the building's going to be used, or will it be used in the summers as well?
That's a good question, I don't know. Maybe We do have some.
Say more outdoor activities or whatever.
We do have some kids doing courses during the summer.
But the use is gonna be the same, it's gonna be.
Yes,
it's not
yeah,
gonna be the
yeah,
same
yeah.
use.
Okay, thank you. And we're making a circular driveway require you to take down some of the trees that are currently on the other side of the property.
Whatever it takes, we have to work it out with our engineer.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Does this come back up for review at all, or this is?
No, not a, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
I'll close it to public now.
Yes, if I may just speak to Mr. Hayes' concerns. I think that this board, and I'm speaking for myself, but I think all the board members will agree, I think we do use a lot of discretion when it comes to putting schools in residential neighborhoods, as was evidenced here tonight earlier, where we had an application that came forward in a residential zone. I don't think one board member here liked that idea at all. As Rabbi Abadi testified, this is a unique school situation. This isn't a school that is readily available in Lakewood. I think this will be the first of its kind in Lakewood, and while it may not serve the general neighboring zone right there, it certainly will serve a function for the entire Lakewood.
And it's not gonna grow more than 30.
No.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would ask for a motion on this application.
I'll make a motion to approve the application, but subject to the various options we talked about. We turn around.
The fence.
There's got to be a fence to satisfy the neighbor. As size 8 feet, and also
Landscaping.
trying to do as much landscaping as possible.
Moving the
Landscaping,
driveway.
put an irrigation system so the trees can get, water to the back.
No trailers.
There's going to be no trailers except for the illegal trailer.
And bond for curb and sidewalk?
And you're going to
Yes.
bond for sidewalk, yeah, thank you, Al.
Yep.
No buses. And no buses.
No buses on the property.
Okay. Mr. Garfield, second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Garfield?
Yes.
Mr. Stern?
Yes.
Mr. Flansbrough?
Yes.
Mr. Herzl?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Grayson?
Yes.
And Mr. Isaacson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just ask you, please, work it out with the neighbors to make sure that everything, they're satisfied.
Yeah, no, we paid
No,
enough.
we took their concerns and that's why we're asking for the fence and everything, no buses. We want to be good neighbors. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. Got it? Okay. Okay, approval of bills?
Moved.
Any minutes?
Aye.
There's no minutes, are there?
I think there are, but I just will tell you something.
The approval of minutes? Second, all in favor?
I have one question on John's.
Okay, good night.
Are you serious? Gosh. That's a bad day. Go where it is.